Hello folks, and welcome to I Remember, and today's game we are remembering is Star Wars Dark Forces, released in 1995 on the PC, and this game was eventually ported over to the Macintosh and the PlayStation, and it is the PlayStation version you're actually viewing footage of. I tried to get the PC version recorded on my capture card and various capture software, and DOSBox was just not having it, so we had to use the inferior PlayStation version in order to tell the story of my history with this game. And you may be asking yourself, why is this version inferior? Well, the graphics are super grainy, and the frame rate isn't very good. Now, the graphics for this game, even on the PC version, haven't aged very well, but it's like night and day when you play the two. I thought something was wrong with my eyes when I switched over to the PlayStation version, but let's get on to the main point, and that is this game, Star Wars Dark Forces. And probably in 1995, I played a good chunk of PC games, and my favorite company at that point was LucasArts. They had some great stuff, some great point-and-click adventure games like Day of the Tentacle, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. They just had a ton of great games. They also had Star Wars games, go figure, and the two best options were X-Wing or TIE Fighter. I spent so many hours on those games. There was also Star Wars Rebel Assault, which was pretty much a rail shooter. Wasn't very fun, especially if you didn't have a Gravis gamepad. It played like crap on a joystick and played even worse on a mouse. If you're one of those players that beat Rebel Assault on a mouse, you are amazing. But we had these point-and-click adventure games, right? And we had these space sims, but we never really had anything that really puts you on the ground and really let you explore the Star Wars universe as a individual character. And I always wanted a Star Wars point-and-click adventure, and that never happened. Instead, we got Star Wars Dark Forces, which, due to the popularity of Doom, it was easy to see why they wanted to develop a first-person shooter in the vein of Doom in the Star Wars universe. This game was super successful when it came out and was highly rated. At least the PC and I believe the Macintosh version were highly rated. Again, the PlayStation version didn't do so well. My first experience getting my hands on this game was from a friend of mine. He bought the LucasArts Archives Volume 1. And that came with a ton of different LucasArts adventure games. And actually, that's really the first time I played a lot of those adventure games was from this combo pack of various LucasArts games. And included in that pack was the LucasArts Super Sampler CD, I think that's right. And it had a variety of games on there. I think it had The Dig, it had Rebel Assault, and it also had a demo of Full Throttle, which was great, and a demo of Dark Forces, the first level of Dark Forces. And it was a blast to play. I loaded that game up, and I can't tell you how many times I played through this first stage that you're seeing right here. Stealing the Death Star plans just seemed really cool. You're kind of sneaking around these corridors with your pistol, and you're essentially putting in action all of the events of Star Wars A New Hope, and then going on from there, going to a completely new adventure. Now, again, this was just a sampler demo, so I was only able to see the first level of this game, and not having a lot of money as a kid, this wasn't a game I could just go pick up. And actually, at this point, I think the game was out of print. It was not easy to find. I wasn't able to find it easily, and if I did, it was usually like 50, 60 bucks, which was way out of my price range back at the day. So I would go through this first level over and over and over again and try to find every secret, try to kill the stormtroopers with just the pistol, try to kill them with just punching them out, trying to find the quickest path to beat the stage. I had this level memorized, and honestly, this is the best part I remember of this game is the first level, just because I played it so much. The other levels had some fun touches to them. You know, you're going through the sewer system and you're going through an old rebel base that got leveled by these dark troopers, these super stormtroopers basically. But this level was always the most iconic to me. And I guess I should explain how I finally was able to play the full version of Dark Forces. I had a neighbor, and he was from a foreign country. And his brother-in-law, who was also from the same country, was really big into arcade games and PC games at the time, and he had some sort of issue with his computer. And this was like my super early days of doing IT stuff, I guess you could say. He had an issue with his CD-ROM not working, and it ended up that the ribbon cable wasn't in all the way, so it was causing him a ton of issues. But he invited me over to come fix his computer, and I did so. And his place was actually the first time I played Doom 2, which he ripped off from somebody and had it on like an insane amount of floppy disks. And we kind of struck up a relationship there. He had arcade games, so I used to play those, like Donkey Kong and all these other arcade games that he had down in his basement. Well, he had a friend that was selling a whole bunch of PC games, and he had Dark Forces. And I mentioned that I would have been interested in checking out Dark Forces, really just to borrow, not to buy, because again, not much money at my age at that point in time. So I asked him, do you think your friend would let you borrow that game so I could borrow it and I could play it and finally get to experience the rest of Dark Forces? So a couple weeks went by, and he knocked on my door and he said, hey, I was able to get the game for you. You know, just let me know what you think and we'll go from there, or something similar to that. So I finally had the game, box and all. The box was awesome. I love the box art, and finally had the opportunity to go through the game. And I think the thing that really amazed me about Dark Forces in general, other than the gameplay, was just those classic LucasArts cutscenes that played throughout the levels that told the story of the Dark Troopers and why you as Kyle were essentially taking this mission and trying to find out, you know, why this rebel base got completely destroyed and what these secret plans that the Empire had that were going to be used to retaliate against the rebels for destroying the Death Star. It was just really interesting, and it developed the game more so than something like Doom, because Doom was pretty much, you're a Marine, you're stuck on Mars, you got to get back to Earth, start killing stuff, and you had a cutscene at the end of that game. This had a cutscene at the end of every level, and man, facing a Dark Trooper for the first time was pretty scary. I do remember that. There were some pretty intense moments in this game, and I also remember the Boba Fett boss fight being pretty tough as well. But yeah, I finally got a hold of the game. I was finally able to play it. I was really happy. And along with the fact that I finally got to play this game was also the main reason where I discovered what a language barrier was. And unfortunately, because of the language barrier, when I asked my neighbor's friend that, you know, I wanted to check this out, he mistook it as I wanted to buy this game. And I had it for a couple weeks at this point. I blew through it, you know, like 10, 15 times. So there would have been no reason I would want to buy this game at this point. But I was under the impression that, you know, he was letting me borrow it, and that was going to be the end of it. You know, his friend of a friend of a friend was letting him borrow it so I could borrow it. And long story short, he knocked on my door and he said, hey, you know, you've had this game for a couple weeks. This guy wants his money. And I said, you know, what money? And I was just borrowing this. And he said, no, you told me that you wanted to buy this. And I was like, no, man, I don't have that kind of money. How much does he want? And I think he said like $30, and I did not have $30. $30 again did not come easily to me at this point. So I told him, I said, no, man, you know, you misunderstood. I can't take this. And he got pretty mad. And obviously he took the game back, which I completely understood. And he was like, you know, don't ever do that to me again. And I was like, you know, I'm sorry, but you misunderstood me. Like, I didn't intentionally say, hey, let me borrow this game, or let me act like I'm going to buy this game and try it out and then beat it and not pay you. So it was kind of rough. He never really invited me over after that point because I think he ended up actually having to pay for said game, which was disappointing. He was a cool guy. But that's my story of Dark Forces and how much fun I had with it when it came out, especially that demo disc. And it's a shame that they haven't re-released this first version of the game in a better graphics engine, because I think it could be really, really cool if done over again. But obviously with the whole Disney merger and what's canon and what's not canon, this would obviously not be canon anymore, which is sad. So that's all I have for this episode of I Remember. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to doing a few more of these in the future, just talking about memories of my games and anything else. Thanks.